LC, letter guarantee, and also TWCF, trade working capital.
So basically, there are three different components.
Yes,
What is it?
yes.
I mean, working capital, asset acquisition, and for trade facilities.
Yes.
Let's go for the working capital. What are the contracts normally used for this type of facilities?
Okay. For cash line or OD, basically we use Tawaru. Tawaru is so important in this case because it is not acquisition of asset.
Right.
If it is acquisition of asset, it would be very easy because you buy the asset and you sell. So this is something where the bank got to buy commodity through third party and sell it to the customer. And when the customer sell it back, they get cash in return.
Right.
So that cash will be credited to their account. So this is for the case of OD or for the case of cash line.
And how long does the transaction take place? I mean, 1 day, 1 year, 1 week? Right?
Very fast, very
Right.
fast. Because this has been raised and it is automated.
Okay, I see. Talk about the second component, the asset acquisition. Businesses acquire assets for various reasons, be it their office or their vehicles. What sort of contracts are normally used?
Again, like what we discussed earlier, the popular concept is baik pisah manager. But somehow banks start migrating to
Right.
the contract of masyarakat tanah
Is
pisah.
it popular just at Bank Islam or at the industry?
This is more industry at large because this is basically it is driven by the central bank.
Right. How about trade facilities then? I'm sure the trade facilities are more for import and exports, and of course there'll be the cases where they need a bank guarantee.
Yeah.
Under what concept do you issue these trade lines?
When they order things, they have to use letter of credit. So letter credit, it can be under the contract of wakalah, and also under the contract of murabaha. Wakalah basically the bank act as an agent to the customer, so they have to place something to the bank, and murabaha it is basically the customer purchase on behalf of the bank, and that is for LC. And then later when it come back, it might turn into TWCF, trade working capital financing. And then for guarantee also there is bank guarantee, shipping guarantee, and also maybe bond guarantee, because it is not only for import export. Sometimes when you award a contract, they need to have say bond guarantee. So basically when we talk about guarantee, the common contract used under Islamic banking is known as kafalah.
I see. Let's go back to murabaha. There seems to be some confusion in the market of the difference between buy bitaman ajil and murabaha, because the concept or the operations is almost the same. Can you elaborate what's the difference between PBA and murabaha?
I would say this is our style, the style of Malaysia, defining between murabaha and buy bitaman ajil. It has been right in 1983 where buy bitaman ajil is used for a deferred payment sale but on installment basis.
Deferred installment sale on installment basis
and long term.
Long term meaning 5 years, 10 years.
Purchase of house.
Right.
Okay. And then the other one is murabaha. It is also a deferred sale, but normally for short term and one shot payment.
And short term is 1 year and below.
And one lump sum payment.
Payment.
It can be 1 year. 1 year below can be 6 months below, can be 3
but
months.
seldom it goes above 1 year. I mean, it's
that's right.
For short term.
For very short term.
Okay, Dato', you also sit on the Credit Evaluation Committee of Bank Islam. What are the criteria that Bank Islam looks for when they are deciding whether or not to issue a financing or trade line to a respective customer? What does the bank look, and does it differ from whether it's a enterprise or a company or a corporation?
Normally for enterprise or for companies, SME, and compared to the corporate organisation, there are some differences.
How do you distinguish between corporation, a big corporation, and a SME or small business? Is there a defining in terms of perak capital or sales?
In terms of perak capital and a public listed company, these are more on the corporate side.
I see.
And SME and also entrepreneur, these are more on smaller scale in terms of perak, small, and then maybe the business turnover
Right.
also.
So if I were to start a business with paid up 100,000, I'll be considered as a small medium enterprise, right?
Medium enterprise. Okay, so the way we assess these people, of course, when we talk corporate, it is more structured approach because you are dealing with a big corporation where
I see.
they don't need small financing, they need a very huge financing. So you have to get a very systematic approach in evaluating, assessing them. So among those, you want to see the auditor report, so that is very important because auditors, when they check everything and come out with a kind of the standing or the position of the customer, so that would be one of the main important
Things that you would
assessment
require, the
factor.
bank require.
Yes.
How about other criteria?
Okay, other thing, of course, we would like to see their business strength. We would like to see who's who behind the business. So in terms of their business potential, the cash flow, the liquidity, and then in terms of their performance track record, this is very, very important. We could look at this through the CITOS and also SICRIS. And of course, these two, especially SICRIS in particular, is very important to the bank. From there, we know how do they pay their financing, not only from that particular bank, from any bank in the country.
But if I were a new business, I wouldn't have a track record.
Yeah.
Right. How do you evaluate new businesses then?
So we have to mitigate. We have to
Right.
mitigate. One of the ways we have to see their business proposition.
Right.
We want to see their business projection.
Right.
We want to see who's who behind the business.
Right.
We want to see, and we have to understand their business, whether it's that going to be very viable business. And then sometimes we have to secure to make sure, because it is something new that you are not certain. Maybe to convert the bank, we need some collateral or security. But of course, in Malaysia today, government basically being kind enough. They have initiated a few schemes, a guarantee scheme, the profit or interest subsidy, that sort of thing. That basically help the bank in terms of assessing and giving the surety to the bank in terms of payment.
Right. So basically, there are some funds that would be launched by the government in the budget. Would the funds be basically parked at the bank, or I mean, Bank Islam just evaluate them?
We just apply.
Taking back to where you were saying about the business strength, you said that you would look at the business viability and strength. Can you give example of what exactly that you look for? Let's say if I were to have a business in the manufacturing industry or in the hospitality industry, what sort of strength are you talking about when you evaluate these participants?
We have to see the demand.
Right.
The demand, and then we have to see the competition, the competitive scenario that you are facing. How strong are you to face the challenge of other
competitors?
Sometimes we could see if you don't manage properly, even you're already strong, but you probably
drop the ball, so to
have
speak.
I mean, other people will beat you.
Right.
So this is very important. We have to see their strategy, their experience. All this is very important. Because under this competitive scenario, in any sector, manufacturing, other sectors, housing development, and so on. So we have to really see the area. Even you want to finance the developer, which area? Is it in the prime area? Is it in the suburb area? Is it a place that probably maybe
nobody have heard about it?
Nobody heard one thing. Maybe they go there because they anticipate certain big project coming, but it didn't materialize.
I see.
That also you're going to face problem. We got some experience on this kind of financing, where everybody focusing into that area, buying property. At the end, that big project didn't materialize. So what will happen? You can't get the tenant. Very difficult to get the tenant, and probably you won't move there. You thought of putting that as an investment, so that is the problem. But to the bank, it is a different way. Whether you buy a house, you want to stay in it, or you want to buy a house for investment. If you buy a house for investment, you bought it at Subanjaya, Taman Tun Dr. Isman, that shouldn't be a problem because we know the market is there. But you bought at another place, say, Bukit Beruntung, for example. it's not that easy to get the tenant.
The tenant.
So you financing to purchase the property, he cannot let the house. So how is he going to pay back? But of course, if we see his credit standing is very strong, his pay is very high, so maybe he does not rely on the
Rental income.
the rental,
Yes.
then he can support already. That would be a different scenario.
Datuk, one last question before we take our commercial break. Islamic banking, conventional banking, both of you process application. Is there anything that is done differently when you assess a particular applicant in Islamic banking or Islamic finance for that matter as compared to conventional banking? I mean, you look at the type of business like gambling or what are the differences?
Okay, in terms of assessment, basically the criteria is about the same.
Right.
But of course, for Islamic bank, we have to make sure the activity that we're going to finance, the proceed of the financing, is not to be used for anything that violate the Islamic principle, say gambling activities, riba bearing activities, and other immoral activities that prohibited by Islam.
Right. Thank you, Datuk. Take a commercial break. Stay tuned at Islamic Finance at the Capital. Welcome back to Islamic Finance at the Capital. With me is Datuk Wan Ismail Wan Yusof, General Manager Strategic Relations, Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad. Datuk Wan, what do you see are the stumbling blocks for Islamic finance industry, not just in Malaysia but globally as well?
Well, in terms of stumbling block in Malaysia, we could see there's a lot of improvement today compared to when we first started. When we first started, of course,
when Bank Islam first started in
1983. So awareness is the biggest issue, but the understanding of people, the perception of people, they thought that Islamic banking is only for Muslim, because people tend to associate that time Bank Islam with tabung haji. Of course, tabung haji, people place the money there for you to go fast. So of course it is for Muslim, but Bank Islam, it is a bank, but it subscribe the Islamic teaching. It's only that. So like some bank based on the capitalism, socialism, and so on. So this is based on Islamic teaching. So it is a bank, just like other bank, and it is for everybody. But people still perceive it is for the Malays. So a lot of effort being put in place. Of course, when Bank Islam was alone at that time, the prime focus basically to fulfill the needs of the Muslim. But later, after we have got the windows, we got the subsidiaries, and it is the time for Bank Islam to reposition that it is not only for Muslim but for everybody. I would say today it is already very successful, because Muslim, non-Muslim, like, they come to the bank. They come to the bank. They come because they want to see, or they see that Bank Islam is competitive, Bank Islam is efficient, or even the Islamic bank, not necessarily Bank Islam. But with that, it means their taste. They subscribe to the Islamic bank. So meaning there's a lot of improvement. But of course, awareness still there. People thought that there was a kind of understanding or perception earlier days. People said that Islamic banking is expensive. It's just because Islamic banking fixed the rate. So when you fix the rate, at times you are cheaper, at times you are more expensive than the conventional bank. But what people remember most, when you are more expensive. So they say Islamic banking is expensive. But of course today, under the floating rate approach, there's no such thing as more expensive or cheaper. So the rate is very, very competitive. So I would say in terms of stumbling block, it is a lot being addressed. And of course in terms of Malaysian practice and those in the Gulf, there are some gaps there. But we are harmonizing, we are narrowing the gap. And what we could see today, our central bank is very particular about this, and basically bank as much as possible try to work together to make sure what we are practicing here is acceptable in other parts, especially when we talk about product that's winning our partners in the other parts of the world. It it is not only for local consumption. So if we don't get the buy-in from those parties, it will be difficult for us to trade, especially the sukuk.
I see. That are the stumbling blocks that you see. How about game changers? For example, the Qatar authorities, they've given a guideline saying that those who are offering both conventional and Islamic banking, you have 1 year to decide where do you want to be in, conventional or Islamic. I mean, these are the sort of game changers that I can see happening. What do you think will be a game changer for the Islamic banking or Islamic finance industry in Malaysia?
But I think in line with the approach of the government on Watasiyah, I think what we are doing today is very ideal, because sometimes if we go on that kind of approach, maybe to some extent we will limit the players in the market. For example, today we got the full-fledged Islamic bank, Bank Islam, Bank Muamalah, and the foreign bank, Great Finance House, Raji, Asian Finance, and a few more. And we got the conventional bank where they got their subsidiaries, and they work independently. It is a company with their own board of directors, with their own Sharia scholars. So it seems that this approach is more practical in our part of the world. But of course, like for example, Qatar, we do not know what is the impact. Of course, it can be very practical. You decide either which one you want to go, but maybe some bank will go for conventional, the other bank will go for Islamic. But that is something that yet to be explored. But basically, what